Within the bath. Within the bath. Every bath begins with a vision, where ideas and strategies define directions, from the depth of strategic thinking to ever-evolving dynamics of the world. A program broadcast in English brings insight into the journeys that shape the course of individuals, institutions, and nations. Prepared and presented by Mohra bint Zubair Al Zubair and audio director, Warrant Officer Ward bin Salim Al Rawahi.
Assalamu alaikum, dear friends. Welcome back to Within the Path. Last episode, we spoke about moral disengagement, which is how people can disengage from their moral standards. We used the example that Albert Bandura gave of a prison camp commandant writing a compassionate letter to his sick father, and in that same moment, looks out the window, sees a prisoner he believes is not doing a good enough job, and shoots him. And so this becomes a very confusing moment where someone shows compassion and, in that same instance, becomes violent, raising the question of how compassion and cruelty can exist at the same time. Bandura explains this through a number of mechanisms that allow people to disengage from their moral standards. One of those mechanisms is language, specifically sanitized language and euphemisms, which we will be focusing on today. So what is a euphemism? A euphemism is when a milder or more indirect word is used in place of one that is more direct. For example, instead of saying someone is stubborn, a person might say strong-willed. Instead of saying someone is rude, they might say very straightforward. The purpose here is to soften the tone. In everyday life, this can come from a place of consideration. A person may not want to sound too direct, or may choose their words depending on who they are speaking to. But when the same shift in language moves into more serious situations, like conflict, it begins to influence how people perceive and feel about what is taking place. So, for example, there is a difference between saying someone was killed and saying someone died. When saying someone was killed, it shows that the act of killing was carried out upon them. But when it is said that someone died, it does not necessarily mean that they were killed. It could be for other reasons. And so when a number of people are said to have died when they were in fact killed, it can mean that the side announcing the news is choosing to share it indirectly, because it could affect how it is received, depending on which side it comes from. And we see this on the news. One news outlet says killed, another says died. Words change depending on who is supporting whom. This is what Bandura refers to as euphemistic labeling. The action itself does not change, but the way it is seen changes. And once that changes, the response to it changes as well. This is seen in how situations are presented. In some cases, when people are asked to support a war, it is introduced in a certain way, that there is a threat or that something is being done for protection. And through that language, people come to accept what is being presented. If the same situation were described directly, the reaction could be very different. But when the wording presents it as protection or necessity, it becomes something people can stand behind. This is seen when stronger entities move against weaker ones. The language used is rarely direct. It is presented in a way that people can accept, especially the people whose support is crucial. a reason is given, a threat and necessity are mentioned, and through that, people may align with what they are being told. And this is where awareness of the use of euphemisms becomes important. Another context or field that makes me think of euphemisms is diplomacy. Diplomatic language is careful because words carry heavy consequences in the diplomatic world. Saying something directly can severely affect relationships, so euphemisms become a crucial tool. This is why, when someone is described as being diplomatic, it often means they are choosing their words mindfully and not being too direct. The message is there, but it is delivered in a way that is cautious, respectful, and balanced. And this extends beyond diplomacy. In all aspects of life, language plays a major role in how far a person goes. Those who know how to use language well can go far. But it is not just language on its own. It is also the intelligence of knowing when to say what, whom to say it to, and how one says it. When we bring this back to euphemisms, we see that their purpose shifts depending on the context. In everyday life, it may come from consideration and respect. In diplomacy, it plays a core part of its language. And in other situations, like the news, it can shape how events are presented and perceived by the masses. And this is why it becomes more important than ever to be aware of how language is used and to be mindful of what we choose to believe and pass on to others. Thank you for being with me. Until next time, this is Mohra Al Zubair from Within the Path.
Within the Path. Every path begins with a vision, where ideas and strategies define directions, from the depth of strategic thinking to ever-evolving dynamics of the world. A program broadcast in English brings insight into the journeys that shape the course of individuals, institutions, and nations. Prepared and presented by Mohra bint Zubair Al Zubair and audio director, Warrant Officer Ward bin Salim Al Rawahi.